have just created something totally illogical.
Hey folks, welcome to Sidetracks Board Game Club. This week we're doing a little bit something different as we count down to our fall season and getting started with our Wednesday night board game nights at Double Looks. This week I thought we'd do a little Q&A session and I'd answer any questions that you folks have. So we had some folks send in some questions and I'll do my best to give you an answer on those. First question came from Lauren was, have I ever been to the World Board Gaming Championships? The answer to that is no. Those are held at Seven Springs Mountain Resort east of Pittsburgh every year. And I've looked at it a number of times. I've looked over their website and stuff, and I've been tempted, and I'd like to go down there sometime. I'm not a super competitive gamer. I tend to like to play more for social reasons and just to relax. And so my understanding is this is a very competitive environment where people are going to sort of challenge and, try to win. And there's also the World Series of Board Gaming now, which is held in Las Vegas every year, which is sort of a riff on the World Series of Poker that got real popular a few years ago. And these types of events are set up specifically so you can go and try to be the best and beat everybody. And I have some trepidation about that just because I'm afraid it would get into like rules lawyering where people are, getting in arguments over specific rules and things. And so part of me is a little put off by that. And I'm sure that's probably not how it is. But like I said, I just tend to prefer to play more casually rather than super competitively. So I've tended to avoid things like that in the past, but I would like to try it at least once. Sort of in the same vein, we got a question from Corey. Are we going to start doing board game tournaments or card game tournaments again? We held some of these at our shop down on 5th Street when we were down there. And yeah, that's something that we would definitely like to get back into. We're not there yet just because my schedule personally has been pretty jam-packed this summer. Doing a few things on the side and my kids' schedules are very busy for the fall with all the activities they're in. So I didn't want to stretch myself too thin and commit to too many things right off the bat. So for now, we're just getting started with the Wednesday evenings. I'm thinking as we go later into the fall and into the winter, Ted and I have been talking down at Double Looks about possibly getting some tournaments going again. And so that's definitely something that we're looking into. Right now, there's a form out on our YouTube channel and also up on our Facebook page. If you'd like to provide some input, let us know. What kind of tournaments would you like to see? I listed on that questionnaire some of the tournaments we held in the past. Like to get some feedback on whether or not those are ones you'd like to see continue or like to play in again, or just sort of the format. Would you rather have a little bit of an entry fee and have some prizes? What kind of tournaments are you looking for? So be sure to go on there and fill out that form and let us know. Give us some feedback as we start to prepare and think ahead to getting some of those tournaments going. So another question I had related to conventions is, which board game conventions have I been to? I've been to PAX Unplugged twice, which is in Philadelphia. I've been to Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio twice, and I've been to Gen Con in Indianapolis one time. And in terms of which one's my favorite, I would say PAX Unplugged in Philly is probably my favorite of those three that I've been to. I like the size of it. It's kind of right in the middle. Origins is the smaller one. Gen Con is the biggest board game convention in the United States. And again, it's not just board games. If you go back to my video on the gaming hobby, these conventions have board games, card games, role-playing, LARP. They have cosplay. They have miniature painting things. They have everything you can imagine in the gaming space is at these conventions. So it's all kinds of stuff. not just board games. They have playtesting areas, what's called an unpub area, where board game designers can go and test out prototypes. So if you want to see sort of like what's the latest and greatest ideas coming down the pike, you can go do that. There's all kinds of stuff to do with these. I like PAX Unplugged for a couple reasons. One, because size-wise, it's sort of like right in the middle. Gen Con can be a little bit overwhelming because it's just so massive. It's held at the Indianapolis Convention Center, and which is connected to Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Indianapolis Colts play. And so both of those venues are gaming. Every single hotel around the convention center has game activities going on. There's just so much to it. I think they had 60 or 70,000 people this year at Gen Con, and they're actually building a brand new hotel that's going to add a whole bunch more convention space. And so I imagine next year will be even bigger. And so that can be a little bit overwhelming. It tends to be a little bit pricey to go there. But PAX, on the other hand, I love because living in the Pittsburgh region, you can take Amtrak out to Philly. It's a very nice, relaxing ride. You can spend a couple days in Philly and then take the train back, and that's super nice. The size of it's nice. They have a really nice app. I didn't go last year, but I'm assuming the app is still up and running and good. But you can easily sign up for different tournaments. And the tournaments that I played in a Hearts tournament, Small World, and I think one other one. Oh, Sushi Go. How could I forget that one? I won that one. But anyway, the tournaments tend to be pretty relaxed. I mentioned, uber competitiveness. These are tournaments you're trying to win. But from my experience, the tournaments I played in were still pretty relaxed and really fun. But it was easy. The process was easy. They don't actually open up tournament entries and registration until that morning at like 8 a.m. So that way people aren't signing up for a tournament and then not showing up. You have to log on to the app that morning and try to get a seat in the tournament, which is great, but it's also a little problematic. If you're on a train or you're busy or something and you don't remember to open up the app and do it at the specific time, you can miss out on getting a seat. But anyway, the convention hall is great. It's right next to the Reading Terminal Market, so the food is awesome. The exhibitor space is not quite as overwhelming as Gen Con. I mean, at Gen Con, you could easily spend an entire day just in the exhibit hall with all the vendors and stuff. Or you might even be able to spend 2 days there and not do any of the outside activities at all. It's just so huge. Origins is cool. Origins, the first time I went was in that COVID era, and so everybody had masks on. It was a little odd. Attendance was down, and it was actually at a different time of year. So I'm not sure I got the full Origins experience the first time I went. The second time I went, I took 2 of my sons, and we had a really good time. And that was very nice too. The challenge with Origins is I think it's typically in June June-ish. And Gen Con is always in August. So those two are very close together. One's in Columbus, one's in Indianapolis, very close together geographically. And so a lot of people have started to skip Origins. A lot of the board game publishers have started to skip Origins and just do Gen Con instead of doing both of them. So you may not get sort of the same experience at Origins. But I definitely would like to go back there because it was a convention that I really liked. And again, it wasn't huge. But it was a lot of fun. Next question, is there any conventions in Pittsburgh or close to Pittsburgh? And actually, I've recently found out about one in Monroeville at the Monroeville Convention Center. It's called the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo. And that one's actually been on my radar for a couple years too, but I've never been to it. My sense was that it was more focused on video games, arcade games, pinball, that kind of stuff, as opposed to board games. But it looks like it's branched out a little bit and it started to include those other things. So I'm actually going to go to that one this year. It's the first weekend in October, and trying it out. I'm going to see what it's like and see if it's for board gamers, if it's worth going to. So if you're local here, which I'm assuming most of the people watching this are, you might want to check that out. Pittsburgh Gaming Expo in Monroeville, first weekend in October. Any tips on making the convention affordable? That's a good question. A couple things. For me, the housing or the lodging is the most expensive item. So if you can figure out a way to reduce your lodging costs, that's going to help save you a lot. One thing that we did at Gen Con is we stayed at a hotel about 30 minutes away, and then we would drive into the city. We had a parking app that we found that gave us parking for, I think, all weekend for like $30 or something. Because like most conventions, they'll jack up the parking rates real close. We were able to stay in a municipal lot, and we had to walk 5 or 6 blocks to get there, but staying out of town and then driving in each day saved us a good bit of money. In Philadelphia, like I mentioned before, I would take the train, so that saves on Turnpike and stuff. Lodging wise, the only 2 times that I went to PAX Unplugged, I crashed at my son Levi's apartment because he was going to college there. So I would love to go back to PAX, but I don't know if I will, just because the lodging costs for that convention are very high in the city of Philadelphia. So if you have family or friends nearby any of these conventions, I would highly suggest seeing if you can couch surf for the weekend. When we went to Origins, we stayed at my cousin's house, which was great, get to hang out with family for a while. So I would definitely look into that option. As far as saving on the badges, typically you can buy a badge for one day, or one specific day, or you can buy the whole convention. Most of the time, I've always gone for the whole convention, because if you're gonna go, you might as well make a trip out of it, right? One of the things that Levi and I have done at a couple of conventions is we went and hooked up with a board game publisher, and we helped demo their games at the convention. We would work a 4-hour shift each morning at their booth, and we would teach people how to play their games, and we would sell games for them. And there's a Facebook group called Tabletop Game Jobs, and if you follow that group, you can kind of keep an eye on that. And typically when the big conventions are coming up, publishers will go on there and they'll say, hey, we need some people to help at this convention. And one thing, they'll typically pay you an hourly rate. It might be, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks an hour or something, but they also will typically give you a free badge to the whole convention. So like when Levi went to Gen Con, we worked a 4-hour shift for them each day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Might even been Thursday. I don't remember when we went in. It was probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we worked 16 hours for them, but we got a badge for the whole entire convention. And so that deferred some of the costs. And when we weren't working the booth, we were free to do whatever we want. The nice thing about the exhibitor badge at the convention too is you can actually get into the exhibitor hall early before it opens. At Gen Con, it opens at 10 in the morning, and there are giant crowds. I mean, giant crowds of thousands of people wanting to get into this exhibitor hall. You don't have to stand in any of those lines. If you have an exhibitor pass, like we were working the morning shift, we would end up getting there around 9 since it opened at 10, and then we'd have an hour to walk around the exhibitor hall without the crowds, and that was awesome. A lot of the publishers would even allow you to come up and buy stuff at their booths before they were even open, because it's just publishers serving other publishers. And so I would highly recommend that. Keep your eye out for opportunities to work with a publisher and demo their games for them. You get to meet a lot of nice people. You get to make some connections in the board gaming world and get to know some people. So we had a really great experience with that. I would totally recommend doing that again. Okay, final question that came up, and this has nothing to do with conventions. It's sort of shifting gears to another topic. I posted the other day a picture of a legacy game that my family and I are playing. We're currently playing Pandemic Legacy Season 1. And the question that popped up is, well, what's a legacy game? So I'm pretty new to legacy games. Actually, we probably have only been playing them for about a year. And a legacy game is one that you start and you play multiple times, and then throughout the game, how you play, your performance impacts the next game. And so there may be stickers that you put on the board. There may be cards that you get torn up. There may be other packs that you open and add new things to the game. Scoring conditions may change as you go. And so the game evolves over time. For Pandemic Legacy Season 1, it's 12 months of the year. So you're going to play at least 12 games. And if you fail 1 month, you get a chance to retry it and play it again. So you may end up playing more than 12 times. But, game 1, something happens. And if you're successful, then you do these things. It's almost like a choose your own adventure book. And if you lose, you're going to do these things. And then, in game 2, new set of circumstances, new challenges that you face. If you win, you do these things. And so it changes over time. And your version of the game is going to be completely different than what other people play because of the choices you make. You may give your characters special upgrades and abilities. You get to name your characters a lot of times. And your characters may have scars or other things that damage was done to them, and that's going to carry their character through. So it's sort of a storytelling, choose your own adventure kind of game. And at the end of the game, for most of these games, once you play through all the scenarios, so for Pandemic Legacy, at the end of that 12 months, that's it. You've used up the game. But for most of them, you can still play the game with whatever you end up with. In other words, there's a thing at the end of the instructions that tells you if you want to keep playing this game, here's how you can play with your custom board now. Most of them we haven't found that we go back and play it. Like once we've played it through that many times, we're pretty much done. But a few of them we have gone back and played sort of the base layer of what's left over at the end, and it's pretty cool. We've played the first one we played was a game called My Island, designed by Reiner Knizia. The second one was My City. Then we played Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West, which a lot of you have probably played Ticket to Ride. This is a big campaign, and the downside to legacy games is they tend to be pricey. I think Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West probably goes anywhere from $100 to $150 for this game, but it is a gigantic box. I don't even know how many scenarios. There's probably at least a dozen. You're going to play it at least a dozen times. And each time you're sort of building out the board and you're adding new components. So there's a lot to it. And if you think about it, you're getting 12 experiences out of that, right? If you went to the movies 12 times and you paid $12 a piece, that's going to cost you $144. So, when you think about the value that you're getting for it, it's worth it. But some people have a hard time with putting stickers on the board. I did, writing things on the board, tearing up cards, doing different things like that. It just feels awkward in a game, something that you've invested your money in. But I've found we really love legacy games. So far that we've played them, we've really enjoyed them a lot. For Mother's Day, I got Joanne a copy of a game called Charterstone, by Stonemaier Games, which is the same company that puts out Wingspan. So that'll probably be our next legacy game. There are also multiple seasons of Pandemic Legacy. So if we end up really liking this one, we may play some more Pandemic Legacy. But I see more legacy games in our future because it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, it's a very unique experience. As you go through it, you're sort of customizing your own experience with the game, which is pretty cool. So thanks to everybody who submitted some questions, and I look forward to seeing you guys here in another week or so when we start up our board game nights at Double Looks on Wednesday, September 2nd. So hope to see you all there. Bye.